Hello folks, welcome back. In the past I've done several videos on the Goodnature A24 mouse trap. It is an awesome trap. In this video in particular is going to be how to get the best out of your A24 trap. Now I've been using these traps for 7 years and this is one of the ones I have. I recently had a bear steal one of my traps, so now I'm down to 2 unfortunately. Got the other one here as well. So this video is going to be about how to get the best out of your mouse trap and how to best use it, because I have heard over time there's folks that complain about, oh, it doesn't work or this or that or whatever their complaints are, but they don't seem to get the best out of it like I do. And I love this thing. I mean, it just as I showed in a previous video I did, sometimes you can get up to 7 or 8 in a night. So it's like with this building I have out here in the woods. When you start to get to this time of the year, they're starting to look to where they're going to nest and everything, and you'll get a family of 6 or 7 or 8 that try to move in on you and all that sort of stuff. So anyways, let me show you a few tricks on how to use this and get the best out of it. So tip number 1, be prepared to change up the bait. Now this is something where I have never determined the rhyme or reason why it is, but sometimes the mice will want wet bait, other times like a peanut butter type substance, other times they're going to go for like a kind of a dry nut or something like that, you know, or a very salty nut or something, or a mix of the two, or even dried fruit and stuff. So a lot of folks seem to get very set on putting in whatever bait they have on hand or whatever it might be, and if it doesn't work, they automatically are like, oh, the trap doesn't work, it doesn't work. Well, like I said, be prepared to change that bait up. If for some reason you know you have mice activity and they're not going for it, then switch to something else. One of the things Goodnature provides, or you can get, is these bait cups that just screw right in, and you can go ahead and put your own bait inside. Tip number 2 is keep the bait fresh. Okay, the Goodnature bait here is pretty much getting to the end. I put this out during summer. It's been sitting out all summer, probably a lot of times in the sun, whatever. They're not interested in it anymore. So now it's time, you know, here we are, the mice are moving around and all that, so yes, it's time to change things up and put something new out and fresh. Especially with nuts and different things like that, have an expectation that they're going to get stale, whatever, over a week or 2 or 3, and just take your bait cup and unscrew it and just chuck out the old stuff and put some fresh, smelly, tasty stuff in there. You know, all you have trail mix and stuff, that sometimes works real good as well. But put some fresh stuff in there that will get their attention and kind of sucker them in. You know, just be prepared to change up and keep the bait fresh. If you just let the bait just kind of go off and just sit there for months and months and months, they're just not going to take an interest in it, and they're just, you know, you're just not going to get any luck. Tip number 3 with this is, a lot of times they are possibly suspicious about what this thing here is. And so sometimes they will want to have a taste of something before they come back and they get more. So one thing that you might want to do to entice them is put a little bit of bait down here at the bottom of the tray, especially if you know you got mice activity that's very active. Put a little bit of bait down there, just a little bit. You just want to give them a teaser, and hopefully they like it, and then they're going to look up in there and go, oh, there's more up there, and go up into the trap and bang. Okay. The other thing too is never be too concerned about if you have a dead mouse in the trap. Obviously you don't want to leave them there for days and days, but a lot of times I find that does not discourage the other mice. Sometimes it almost seems like it encourages them for some reason. Whatever the psychology is there, I don't know. But that's how I've been able to sometimes get 6 or 7 in a night or 2 or 3, is maybe leave the dead mouse there just for a day or so, and a lot of times it'll bring in other mice, and you know, so on and so forth. So again, you don't want to leave them there for weeks and weeks and stuff, but you know, for a day or so, a lot of times that still seems to attract them. But to get them in there initially, again, put something down there at the bottom to kind of lure them in. Now let's take a look at how we deploy this thing and where we place it at. And before I give you some tips on deploying the trap, here's what I'm talking about. We got a little bit of goodies in there, and then we also put a few little bits of cashew down there on the bottom, and then we just simply screw this in, and then we put our cap back on. And then another thing too is always make sure that you've got plenty of gas. So probably after a couple months you'll be out of gas, so you just want to keep track of that. There's also a counter you can get. I think it comes with the counter, but you can put the counter on if you want, and just make sure that you've got plenty of gas. Okay, so in here, this is our closet. We're out here in the middle of the woods with this building, and so there's mice activity in here. You can see the mouse turds on the floor. Now, one thing that you always want to do is with the trap is you don't want to put it out in the middle of the floor or something like that. They love to run along the edges typically, and that's where they tend to feel more secure. Now, there are mouse turds out here where they've run back and forth and all that. I get that. But typically they're going to go along the edges of buildings and different things. Now, here's another thing with the trap that I like to do is you want to give them some sort of privacy screen or some feeling of security. So what I will do is I'll take something like this. You can just use a piece of plywood or whatever. Here, this is kind of like a piece of cabinetry type cardboard, and you just want to kind of put it over the top like that. And don't know what it is, but it just seems like that little bit of extra, maybe it's some sort of thing where they're used to predators from the sky or whatever it might be, or I have no idea. It just seems like when they're a little more secure, a little more private, the trap is not out there in the open exposed so much, and you put something kind of over the top of it like that, they seem much more inclined to run in there, get the food, try to take the food and all that, and then you know what happens. So that I find works real well. Outside cardboard, probably wouldn't want to go with that. Usually I'll use like a sheet of plywood or something like that and put that over the top, and then there you go. So this trap hadn't gotten any hits in a while, and so I changed the bait up to the cashews and pistachios. And also, just remember, put your covering over. What do we have? Looks like we got somebody. It's getting into the cashews. So like I said, folks, use these tips. It might help you out a fair bit with this trap. Get those results. Folks, there you go. There's a couple of tips. I've been using these traps. I think it was about 2017 when I got my first one. And they've been very effective for me. Been very happy with them. They work very well. And again, I think if you kind of look at some of those tips there and you keep up with the maintenance on them, you put them in the right place where there's mouse activity, and just some of the tips I put out there, success rate will go up. And that's what we want with these. We want these to be highly successful and do what they need to do and get the job done, so you're not pestered by mice. So especially for us living out here in a rural area, any building that you have, mice are going to want to naturally get into it and make their home there. So basically keeping them under control is a key thing. The other thing to remember too is I always find with pest control is that you have to kind of employ a multifaceted approach. So not only do I use these Goodnature traps, sometimes if I know I've got a bad problem here, like with this building here, it's getting into fall, they're going to want to start moving in and settling in for the winter. I might employ two traps in one location, one at one part of the building and the other at the other part, or something like that. And I might use two different types of bait. So if they're not interested in that one particular bait, then they have the other trap they might be interested in, so on and so forth. I also use mouse poison and stuff like that, and also too different repellent and different things like that I've used on occasion as well. So you have to kind of take a multifaceted approach to it, not just kind of depend on just one thing to eliminate them and keep them under control. So anyways, hopefully you got some good stuff from that, and happy hunting and good success out there.